We are on the bubble of the tag team event.
This is insane.
It's gonna go one of two ways. We're either gonna find that double soon, or we'll meet our fate. So, let's freaking go! Let's get started. I had a slow start to the tournament, but in level 3, I pick up King Queen off in the low jack and raise to 700. The hijack button and small blind call, 4 ways to a flop of 3-3-4 with 2 hearts. I typically don't believe in betting into multiple opponents with nothing, so after the small blind checks, I check and action checks all the way through. The turn is the King of Hearts. Small blind checks again, I do have a king, also the Queen of Hearts, but it's possible my opponents could already have a flush, a 3, I check for pot control, and the button bets 1.5k. I make the call, and we're heads up to a river, which comes a 5. Now my opponent bets 5k, and I have a decision. When he bets this big, he's saying he has a flush or full house. Maybe a 3. I can really only beat him if he's bluffing, but I make the call. He shows 8-9 of spades. He is bluffing, and I take it down. Fast forward to level 5, I get ace-10 in the big blind. Unfortunately, because tournaments are so long, I only have time to show the most important hands. Also, another quick note, this is a partners event. However, my partner Sethi had obligations to play a different tournament, so I'm pretty much flying solo in this one. I did know that, and I'm fine with it. But anyway, in this hand, there are 4 limpers. I am not going to limp. I raise to 3k. Totally happy if I just take down the dead money, but nope. The cutoff calls, and we're heads up to a flop of ace, queen, 4, 2 clubs. I start off with a small bet of 2.5k, and then my opponent goes all in for 15.6k. It's really not a comfortable spot, but sometimes you just have to put in the chips and pray. I make the call. He shows jack, queen of clubs. I'm ahead, but it's pretty much a coin flip. Any club, queen, or jack will give him the winning hand. Come on, no club, no jack, no queen. Let's go, huge pop for the good guys, come on. Next up, I have ace king in the hijack. The low jack opens to 1.3k. I'm going in for that 3 bet. I make it 3.9k, triple the low jack's raise. But then out of nowhere, the button looks up at me, and I know what that means. He goes for the 4 bet. He makes it 14.5k. Low jack folds, actions on me. This guy has about the same stack as me. The way I see it, I have 2 major options: fold or all in. If I fold, I lose some chips now, but I guarantee that I stay in the game. If I go all in, I could potentially double up and be a dominant force on this table. But my entire stack could just as easily turn to dust. I think about it and decide to fold. I have plenty of chips as is, and I think there are just going to be a lot better spots to take later on. Alright, this next hand is nuts, so strap in. I open pocket 4s from the cutoff to 1.7k. Small blind 3 bets to 4.5k, actions back on me. This guy's been 3 betting aggressively. It's a cheap price, I'm in position, I make the call, and we're heads up to a flop of queen 10, 8, 2 hearts. My opponent starts off with a very small c-bet to 2.5k, less than a quarter of the pot, and I have some devious intentions. I make the call. The turn is the 6 of hearts, bringing 3 hearts on the table. Now my opponent slows down and checks. I should have a lot more flushes than he does, especially after he checks, and I didn't call the flop to play this passively. I'm going with aggression. I bet 8k. Please, fold, man. Fold! Fold! But after about 30 seconds, he makes the call. The river is the ace of hearts, and he checks once more. Okay, this is actually one of the best cards in the deck. The only high hearts left are the king and the jack. If I'm being completely honest, I think I have the 4 of hearts in my hand, but I'm not even sure, and I really don't want to check. The story I'm telling is that I hit the flush on the turn, and I'm gonna keep telling that story. I bet 15,000 chips. And he folds! And he folds! Yes! Come on! We're doing it, guys. We are almost 8 hours deep into this tournament. 3 more to go, and then we hit day 2. I pick up jack queen in the hijack, open to 1,700 chips, and only the big blind makes the call. The flop comes out 8-9-3, and with 2 overs and a gutter, I decide to bet on the bigger side, half pot, 2.3k. It's funny because in tournaments, my sizings are much smaller, so half pot is pretty big. Anyway, the big blind makes the call. The turn comes out pretty good. It's a jack, giving me top pair. I debate between betting or checking, but I decide to just check this time. If I bet and got raised, it would just be really, really nasty. So I'm going to play it safe on this one, and we're off to a river which comes the 10 of hearts, giving me a straight. The flush does also come in, although when my opponent checks, I'm pretty sure I have the best hand. This board is going to be pretty hard to get paid on though. Any 7 or queen makes a straight, there's a possible flush, and if I had to guess, my opponent is probably sitting there with an 8 or a 9, maybe 2 pair at best. I decide to bet super small, 1.5k. He thinks about it for around 30 seconds and then makes the call. I show my cards, of course they are good. He mucks and I take it down. Moving forward to the last level of the day, it's level 11, blinds are 1k, 2k. I've done my best to chip up, winning small pots, and now my stack sits at 97k. I pick up a big hand, ace-king suited in the low jack. I open to 4k, and then the button 3 bets to 11k. Now, there are a couple of things that are going through my head. I haven't seen this guy 3-bet yet at all. It's also near the end of the day where people might just want to secure the bag for day 2 and play conservatively, so I weight him toward a very strong range. I could put in the 4-bet, but I decided to just see the flop. I make the call, and the flop comes queen 10, 5, 2 hearts. Wow, a gutter and the nut flush draw. This is a serious flop for me. I check it over to him, expecting him to c-bet at a very high frequency, but he checks it back. Interesting. The turn is the deuce of hearts. Come on! We have the nuts. This is insane. I check my cards. I clearly know I already have the flush, but I want him to think I'm looking for a heart. Make him think I'm weaker than I am. I bet 12k. And he makes the call. The river is another 10. I'm now losing if he slow played queens or 10s on the flop. I also just don't know what hands I'll get value from if I bet. I expected him to bet the flop with aces, kings, ace, queen. So if I bet here, maybe I can get called by jacks. The alternative is I check, telling the story that my hand is weak and I was just taking a stab on the turn. This could give him the opportunity to bluff. All right, I'm doing that. I check. He bets 26k. I pretty much snap call, and he shows ace queen. Was not expecting to see that. I would have thought he would have c-bet the flop with top pair. It did feel really nitty taking the check call line on the river, but honestly, I don't think he was gonna call a raise anyway, so it is what it is, and after a little more play, we officially make it to day 2 with a stack of 137,000 chips. Not in the money yet, but we are close, so let's just jump right in. I get off to a hot start on day 2. In the first level, I get ace king, heads up to a flop where I c-bet and take it down. Then ace queen, where I open, get a couple callers, flop a queen, and win another one. And then we get the lucky snowman. I'm in the small blind. The hijack opens to 6,000 chips, more than the standard min raise, and I decide to play this one as just a call. The flop comes out 10 high, not a bad flop for pocket 8s, but my opponent decides to bet nearly pot, 15,000 chips, and I just don't think it's worth it, so I just fold. Next I have pocket 5s on the button. The cutoff opens to 5,000 chips. He doesn't have a huge stack, and since we're approaching the money bubble, he probably won't want to put his stack at risk. I take advantage of that, go aggressive, 3-betting to 13.5k, and he makes the fold. Nice. A little later, I get 9-10 of diamonds in the small blind. Action folds all the way to me, and in tournaments, when you raise from the small blind, you tend to go a little bit bigger, so I make it 7.5k to go. My opponent makes the call, and the flop comes 8, 9, 10. It is always lovely flopping 2 pair, however, this is quite the dangerous board, so I'm on the fence between betting or checking. I think either is fine. I decide to check out of position, and my opponent bets 7.5k. Now there's another decision between raising or just calling. Again, I think either is fine, but I just call this time, and the turn is an ace. I check, he checks, and we're off to a river, which comes another 10. Holy cow, I hit a full house. The problem is, when my opponent checked the turn, it really limits how strong his hand is. He probably has a single pair holding like an 8, 9, or 10 that got scared by the ace. So now I have to decide how much value I can get out of those hands. I bet super small, only 6K. This way he'll likely call with an 8 or a 9, and if he does happen to have a 10, he'll probably put in a raise. Anyway, he ends up calling, and I take down a nice pot. All right, we're about 10 spots away from the money, which is really important as a bigger stack because you can put a lot of pressure on shorter stacks with aggression. It can be a great spot to build your chip stack, and in this one, I pick up ace-8 of spades in the big blind. The small blind opens to 6.5K. The standard move would be to call here with ace-8, but like I was saying, now is the time to use aggression. I 3-bet to 17K. My opponent looks very frustrated and folds, and I win an easy one.
All right, this is the first update I'm doing, but we are on the bubble of the tag team event. I have played 99.9% of all poker from this tag team, so I locked one up for my boy Sethi. We're doing good. Blinds are 2K, 4K right now. We're looking at like 180K, and yeah, we are 1 away from the money. Let's go. 217 left, 216 cash. Let's go.
And just like that, we hit the money. That means no matter what, I locked up $1,002 for me and $1,002 for Seth. Probably the easiest $1,000 he's ever made. Anyway, now we're looking at that top prize, $95,000 for each of us if we get first place. There are 216 teams remaining, and I pick up King Queen in the small blind. Under the gun +2 opens to 8K, action folds to me. I think it's split between a call or a 3-bet. However, this player has been opening pretty loose, so I take the more aggressive route and 3-bet to 28K. After a little bit of thought, my opponent makes the call, and it's on. Flop comes out 4-4-5. Not a good flop for my hand, but I should have a lot of overpairs here. I continue for 20K. Come on. Fold. Fold. But he doesn't. He makes the call, and I'm worried. I expected to fold out most of his overcards, so I'm thinking he has a middling pocket pair. Please, let's get some help. Turn is a 5. I just don't know if I'm getting a pair to fold on this board. I check, he checks back. I'm looking for a king, queen, or an ace that I can represent on the river. The river is a jack. I think I just have to give up. I don't think I can get a pair to fold. I check, he checks, and sure enough, he has pocket 7s, and we take a big hit. To make matters worse, I go completely card dead. For the next 2 hours of the tournament, I play exactly one hand, ace jack. I take down a small pot, but it's not enough for me to survive this bleeding. I see the blinds go up, my stack going down, and for the first time this tournament, I feel like everything is completely out of my control. Until I pick up ace-8 in the big blind. Finally, a defendable hand, a hand I will most likely play. My chip stack is down to crumbs. The blinds are 4K, 8K. I have 78,000 chips, less than 10 big blinds. Action folds all the way to the small blind. And I already know, no matter what, I'm all in. He raises to 20K. It's the moment of truth. I'm all in. And he snap calls. He immediately shows ace king. I'm drawing thin. The flop? Jack 9-7, giving me a gut shot straight draw. I need an 8 or a 10 to survive. And the turn is a 10, giving me the straight. The only card that will help him now is a queen. Hold. One time, dealer. One time! Sucks. All right, Seth, we got 104. How are you feeling?
I'm proud. I'm very proud. 104 out of 1,400 runners. I mean, that's nothing to hang your head about. You can't do anything about being card dead. We run so bad.
So bad.
And I busted the 1K mini main right before it. So it's like, I'm just bringing the bad juju over the table.
Rough. Big grind. Grinded for like 15, 16 hours, something like that. Anyway, yeah, 104. Cool. Thanks for watching.